Economic growth, society, and the environment. The three pillars of sustainability, or the triple bottom line, as it's also known, are looking at how businesses affect society, the environment, and businesses not only should be about the one bottom line of profit, but should also be about the other two. So that's why it's called the triple bottom line. Okay, so normally people would say businesses, the bottom line is just profit, whereas businesses should be about the three P's, people, planet, and profit. Okay, so we're going to look at the three of them now. So all three pillars are connected. As a result, economic growth has a direct impact on society and the environment. So we're going to look first at society. So the impact of economic growth, and here we're talking about businesses growing, and think about globalization across the world and how economies, the more that's produced, how that would have an effect on people, remember, society. So an increase in disposable income, so that's money that people have as businesses grow and more people have jobs, they have more money then to spend. So this disposable income for non-essential items can lead to greater focus on material possessions. So think about fast fashion that we talked about when we were talking about consumerism, and how there isn't a need for as much clothes, and think about the waste involved, all of that. So material possessions, people just want more and more and buy more and more. So obviously that's going to impact people and their needs and wants. It'll all be about wants as well. So the gap between the rich and poor may increase. So again, the more the economy grows and businesses become wealthy, there still will be people that don't work, and again there'll be further inequality there. So development can lead to the displacement of communities, for example. So an example here would be the construction of the Three Gorges Dam in China forced more than 1.3 million people to leave the area. So again, just to be able to support industries and businesses, they used the land and had to displace people. Okay, so not only are animals being displaced from rainforests, for example, also people. Okay, so low paid workers, again, as more needs to be produced, these people in these, for instance, or factories, even you're talking about, or sweatshops, you're talking there about people and even child labour, all these awful things around the world, and cheaper labour countries. Okay, and again, think about child labour and loss of time, won't be able to receive an education. So the impact of economic growth on the environment then. So increased production can cause pollution, as we know. So the more that's made, and use of non-renewable, likes of your oil and gas, and that goes up into the atmosphere. Okay, and that will cause human health issues. Okay, so an example here would be rapid economic growth in China has caused unsafe levels of sulfur dioxide in the air. So you can see how in that picture, very hard to even see the sky. Increased consumption leads to extra waste, as we know, all right, because all has to end up somewhere. Greater quantities of water are used, okay, so the more that's made, most things need water to produce. So even, believe it or not, Coca-Cola, all these soft drinks need a lot of water, so it all has to come from somewhere again. And the waste then at the other end, pollution. So the impact of economic growth then on the environment. Okay, so like the last slide there, we were looking at, we're looking at society and the environment. Okay, so more points there, we'll be looking at rainforests and how deforestation, cutting down of trees to make goods for raw materials, has displaced animals from their habitats, okay, and reduced biodiversity. So all the different species of plants and animals that are around the world. So there's an increase in the consumption then of non-renewable energies, as I said, so such as oil, coal and gas. And we know that there's a big push for electric cars, for instance, to move away from or over reliance on these non-renewable. They can't be replaced. The burning also for energy, not just energy, but heat in homes. Fossil fuels are used, as we know. And again, most houses, the government are looking for people to come up with ways like solar panels to heat water, create electricity, to move away from burning of coal, okay, and oil. So, we know that also all goes into the atmosphere and contributes to global warming. Sustainable development, then, another key term that you need to be aware of. So sustainable development. So we talked about non-renewable. So let's move now and look about the renewable sources of energy that can be used. Okay, so the key thing, or as a definition about sustainable development, it's all about looking at the current needs of the economy without harming the planet for future needs. So looking at business and sustainable development, then how can businesses become more sustainable? All right, so using the fuels, not harming the planet. So a business that is committed to sustainable development will endeavour to have as little negative impact on the environment as possible. So a good Irish example here would be Country Crest, and how this supplier of potatoes and onions in Dublin, they are looking at all parts of their business to try and be more sustainable. Okay, so what they're doing is they have what's called a green ethos. So they're all about green, that's what drives their businesses. So everything that they can think of. So they create electricity with their own wind turbines, they recycle their water, they compost, and then use greener fuels for vehicles. And hopefully, I suppose they might move into electric cars, for instance. And then promoting biodiversity. So I suppose when they're doing their farming, that they're making sure they're not harming plants and animals. So looking at the government then and how they have a role to play in helping businesses to become more sustainable. Okay, so there are initiatives and laws out there. Initiatives are just new ideas to help businesses. So there's the Waste Management Act, Protecting the Environment, and Low Carbon Development Act. So these are all in place. And the government have an agency called the EPA, or the Environmental Protection Agency, that enforce that. So they enforce the laws and they make sure there's waste management put in place by all businesses. They monitor businesses again and how they are impacting the environment. So all businesses have to come up with environmental impact statement before they can operate. Okay, so they have to look at what impact they'll have on the environment. And again, the EPA looks at greenhouse gas emissions and how businesses are contributing to that. And given education and guidance to businesses as well. Okay, and done all the research. And I suppose the key thing is to protect people in Ireland. Okay, so any harmful effects of all this pollution. Okay, and Borbia is another government agency, and they have an initiative there to try and make businesses go green. Okay, so Origin Green aims to help promote sustainability by enabling Ireland's farmers and producers to reduce their environmental impact and enhance their effect on society. And the whole idea of Origin Green and trying to promote, even, there is another side of it as well, where abroad farmers' produce can be promoted with this green image, and people then around the world would see our milk and our beef as being, very natural and, probably more looking at more healthy, I suppose, and tasty. Okay, and last area to look at then when it comes to not only the government but around the world. So all the leaders, part of the United Nations, have set an agenda for by 2030. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, so they're looking at all about, I suppose, not only the environment but society. Okay, it's climate action. And helping then, clean water, gender equality, all that stuff. Okay. So global sustainable development then. So as we're saying, these goals, it's all about protecting the planet and people. Okay, so prosperity, not just for the rich, but also for the poor. So try and reduce some of these inequalities. Okay, so that's to be done by 2030. Hopefully, countries are not required to meet the goals by law, but they are expected to establish sustainable development plans, so put plans and policies, laws in place. In order to meet these goals, governments, not only governments, but also businesses and people must play their part. Okay, so that's looking at chapter 34 in total. So finish off the questions at the end of the chapter and submit them in Teams.